Alright, so I'm trying to wrap everything up. Like I said, it's a ton of information, so just please bear with me, family. Alright. So as I stated, where I left off, I think it was number 2 on disturbing texts that I have received from Darren. He said to have her checked out. I said I was going to have her checked out. He said, okay, let me know how it goes. One will be, why would I be concerned about something I didn't do? Y'all can hardly communicate amongst adults in your family, but an illiterate toddler's word is go? Y'all funny. Then he said a laughing, smiling face that had tears coming out his face laughing. Why is it that when I said I'm going to have our daughter checked out, instead of being a concerned parent, why aren't you concerned is what scared me. Not only that, he said, okay, Dot, let me know how it goes. Then he says, why would I be concerned about something I didn't do? If you didn't do it, then why aren't you concerned about who may have done it? Okay? Then again, he calls my toddler. He's mentioned her being an illiterate toddler like 3 or 4 times. Why? First off, she's your daughter. The fact that he replaces the word daughter or my child or her name and refers to her as a toddler, an illiterate toddler. Now, we could only assume based off of the context around illiterate toddler that he's using that in a negative term, in a negative way. Okay? Then he says, y'all are funny. And then he says the smiley face. Another one. I said, I'm angry because I tried calling and texting you. You're insulting and mocking me by adding these smiley faces as if to mock the situation. So he sends another laughing smiley face with the eyes closed, and he says, because you're being nasty can't affect me. Smiley face wink. Another one. He said, what happened to you and your mom sucks, but that's y'all. The fuck out my face. I'm not from the South. Smiley face with a wink. Another one. I mentioned how Jada said that she had missed them. She was at my parents' house one day and she said she missed her daddy. So my mom sent me a text. She said, I'm going to see if your dad can call Darren and see if he can talk to Jada. So I said, no, I'm going to tell Darren to call y'all. So I forwarded the message that my mom sent to me to Darren. I said, Jada wants to talk to you. Call her. He refused to call her. He said, I don't like your parents. I don't want to have nothing to do with them. I said, what the hell they got to do with the fact that your daughter misses you and wants to talk to you? He said, just wait till she gets home. She comes home a week later. I said, Darren, she's here. Never picked up the phone to call her. Nothing. Now, the Wilsons have Darren's phone record because they pay the bill. Look through those phone records, Wilsons. Y'all see my number? My number is 919-904-1345. Okay? Why is it that I have not received not one call from this dude? I did receive like 2 calls after the investigation, but the time in which he called me was because of the text I sent him in regards to the evidence that I had against him. Okay, so let's just make that clear. Okay, it wasn't calls asking me about Jada and how she's doing. Okay, so then he says it's different if we knew or we caught somebody, but you're going off an illiterate toddler's word. Again, there's the illiterate toddler. All right, so investigators, I found out that the reason why investigators have people write statements out and interview them is because deception can be detected those ways. Based off of people's wording, like, okay, for instance, if you're describing something that happened in the past, you're going to use past tense verbs. If you're describing something that's happening now, or you're making up thoughts, or you're making up shit as you go along, you're going to use present tense. A person who's lying about something, when they're describing something that's already happened, we use present tense and switch back and forth. Right at the point in which you would expect a past tense term to be. I found a lot of those in his text messages. Look at this. I sent him a message. I said, God's going to get you for what you did. I said, by his stripes, Jada's healed, but God's going to get you for what you did. I said, there's consequences for what you did to her. And I said, you can pray all day long and ask God for forgiveness, but God's still going to reveal what the fuck happened to my child. So this is what he said. God know what I didn't do. I will answer to him. He knows I never touch my girls. That whole sentence is all fucked up. Look at this. He says, I know what I didn't do. Didn't do? Okay. Not being descriptive is another thing. He says, I will answer to him. Answer to God about what? Usually when people say, I will answer to God, or God's the only person I'm going to answer to, is usually when they've done something wrong. And they're basically saying the only person that can judge me, the only person that can deal with me about this shit or what I did is God. That's usually when people bring that up. He said, he knows I never touch my girls. Never touch? Never and touch are two present tense verbs that he was using to describe something in the past. The correct terminology in this situation would have been, he knows I never touched my girls. But the fact that he said girls, I mean, mind you, we're talking about Jada. I never made mention of Monica or Layla. Okay? He brought that shit up on his own. Literally the sentence before, I was talking about Jada. And then for the first time in our entire conversation, he says, I never touched my girls. Touch is present tense, which means he's lying. That is a form of deception. He's lying at that moment. So that's when I contacted Quanda and Daniel and Danny's wife and Miss Janie, because I said, wait a minute. Then that's when I was thinking back to Monica's behavior and her acting out and the screaming and the hiding and the running away when it was time to go home. All that shit. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I always thought Darren and his relationship with Monica was weird because my best friend is a witness to this. Guess how I found out about Monica? I found out about Monica because of the manager at IHOP slipped up. Mind you, me and Darren had been dating for 3 or 4 months at this point. He told me he never had any kids. I remember we was in my car. I was driving, taking the back road from my house because he dropped his car off at my mama's mailbox. And we went and took the back road to go to IHOP because we went to work. We were going to work. And we were talking about kids, and I was like, yeah, someday I want to have kids. Mind you, I'm a virgin at this time. So I was like, yeah, I'd love to have kids someday. And Darren was like, yeah, me too. He said, I don't have any kids. I'd love for you to be the first woman I have kids with. He flat out told me, he literally told me he had no kids. Then I found out a couple months later because the manager at IHOP slipped up and came out of her mouth and slipped up, which I don't think was an accident, and said, yeah, he has a child. I said, what? I remember I went to my best friend's house and I cried, man. I broke things off with Darren because I was like, you told me you didn't have no kids. But yeah, we've been spending every single day together. My parents knew, they knew I was with Darren every day. From the start of the morning to the very end of the night. Monday through Sunday is how our schedule was. I never would have thought in a million years he had a child had Stella not said anything. Okay? So I find it odd that he denies his child. Then I have text messages where apparently him and Taj, the girl he cheated on me with, she was upset because she didn't know that he had a child. He waited a couple months into their relationship to tell her he had a child. Then some girl that he said he's dating at his mom's job right now, I have a text message where he says that she's upset and having difficulty dealing with the fact that he failed to tell her a couple months into their relationship that he has a child. It's like he flat out denies the existence of his kids with women. And it's not fair. Because by then we're so deep into the relationship that we feel like we can't even leave now because we're too invested in it emotionally. So anyways, so that's what made me prompt to call Quanda, because I was like, wait a minute, I never said anything about Monica or Layla. I just talked about Jada, the only person that's made mention that he did something to them. So that let me know, okay, wait a minute. His guilty conscience just fucked up just now. I think he did something to Monica, y'all. I really do. I think that little girl needs to get checked out. I tried reaching out to Quanda. And here's the thing about that situation. I reached out to Quanda out of concern. I reached out to her entire family out of concern. I have the text messages. I have everything. I've kept everything in the exact order. Okay. So, if you didn't hurt Monica, why is it when I reach out to her mom and tell her mom that I suspect something may have happened to her daughter, And your response to me, his first response to me, after Quana and I guess somebody had contacted him on her side, Quana's on my side. Quana and Miss Janie believes me. They fully support me. They don't believe anything you say. Smiley face, wink. That disturbs me because, first off, if someone is falsely making accusations such as this against you, and they go and tell somebody else, wouldn't you think the first thing that will come out that person's mouth is, how the hell are you going to accuse me of touching my child? Wouldn't you think there would be some kind of like anger? Some kind of denial that I never touched Monica? There was none of that. His message, and he left it alone for days. His message was, I never touched my girls. Never, which is present tense, or nevered, which is what we're describing right now. Okay. Another one. I'm fully capable of getting to my kids on my own, ... smiley face wink. I was telling him I wasn't going to invite him to my hotel because it got me kicked out my last one. So I was like, why don't you get your parents and we meet up somewhere, and I drop the kids off, in your parents' car, and y'all go spend time with them, and I'll meet you back up and we'll get the kids. No, if I can't go to your hotel and spend time with them, I don't want to see them at all. There again, is his way or no way at all. There's no compromise, and there's no, okay, I'll talk to my parents, see if I can get them some gas money to come get the kids. Damn it, you ain't even buying diapers for them. At least you can do is throw them some money. Come get your goddamn kids. No compromise. There's never compromise with Darren. It is his way or fuck it. No way at all. Okay. So then another one. He says, get her evaluated and checked and counseled. I really want to see what they find and if someone is hurting her. He says, get her evaluated, checked, and counseled. Wait a minute. Didn't you say that nothing happened? There's a possibility that nothing happened, but now you're saying, it's like he wants her to get evaluated, checked, and he wants her counseled. Usually when people get counseling, it's because they have problems. They have issues. And they need someone to help them figure it out and cope with it and talk about it. The fact that he threw out she needs to be counseled contradicts his entire statement of him believing that nothing happened to her. Then he says, I really want to see what they find. What they find? Don't you mean if they find anything? I mean, Darren, you're the one that's saying that you didn't do anything to her. You're the one that's trying to throw out that she's an illiterate toddler. Maybe she's confused. She's been coached and all this other crap. You didn't say if they find anything. You said what. He's making definite, absolute statements about my daughter. As if he's already convinced something happened to her. But yet, he's saying he doesn't believe anything happened to her. Y'all gotta, man. Okay, another one. After I reached out to Miss Ferguson and I told her, I said, look, man, this man has signs of being an abuser. He was abused as a child sexually, and this is the person he named. The first message that I got from Darren after Miss Ferguson, I guess, Mr. and Mrs. Ferguson reached out to his mom and told them, this is the message I got. He said, my family is tight. He sent 3 laughing smiley faces with tears coming out. Are you trying to ruin my family because you failed your family the same way your mom failed hers? There's an absolute, he said I failed my family the same way my mom failed hers. Now my mom's married, not divorced. So he's not talking about a failed marriage or a failed relationship. He said failed your family. The only thing that my mother failed to do was believe me when I told her about my allegations and protect. That's the only thing. I'm coming to him about my daughter being molested by him. And he, in his statement, he says, because you failed your family the same way your mom failed hers. Another one. He said this to me on New Year's Day. He said, I think very highly of you. I see a great woman inside of you. I see that you're saved. There's that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde bullshit that I was telling you guys about. But he sees that I'm saved. He slipped up. This guilty conscience slipped up. He sees that I'm saved. And I could only conclude that he's saying that God has revealed things to me finally. The truth. Because the sentence before that statement he sent me, I was saying, God has shown me what you did to my daughter. I see the truth now. I was blind all this time, but I see what you did. I'm connecting the dots and everything's making sense. And then he sends me that. I see that you're saved. Okay, another one. He says, I'd never touch Jada and I'd never rape you. Can't believe you would try to accuse me of that. I'm a very good person. Not always the nicest, but I loved all of you. I swear before God, I never touched her. I shame myself before God and then you. I'm not that guy. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm positive of what I didn't do. He never mentions what he's talking about in reference to what he didn't do. Abusers do that. They will remove what they're being accused of out of the sentence and replace it. Like what he replaces was what I didn't do. He leaves it up in the air. Okay? Now this whole sentence is fucked up, okay? Because I learned, this is what I learned, guys. Oaths, this is what abusive people use. Oaths, deceptive subjects often use mild oaths to try to make statements sound more convincing. They're more likely to say, I swear, on my honor, as God is my witness. Darren said that. He said, I swear before God I never touched her. I shame myself before God and then you. I'm not that guy. It also says that abusers will often refer to themselves as being good people. Like, as if they're trying to convince themselves that they're good people. Darren's mentioned, I'm a good guy in my mom's email. I'm a good guy in that message. It's like he's trying to convince himself that he's a good person. And then, okay, so my thing is, if you're not guilty, why are you swearing? Why are you putting swear words and associating them with God to try to convince me that you're telling the truth? People usually use oaths when they're trying to convince people, like, you know what I mean, that I didn't do this. But if you're being honest about something, you're not going to just throw out a swear word like that. And it's funny that when I looked up deception in text messages or deception in writing and talking, it says that that's what abusers do. They will use oaths. Okay, so then 13. But then the fact that he says, I'm positive what I didn't do. No, that's not how people talk. You didn't do something, you said, I know I ain't do that shit. I ain't do that. They make absolute confident statements. When he said, I'm positive what I didn't do, him saying I'm positive is almost saying, like, I'm pretty sure I didn't do it. Which leaves that question mark. You know what I mean? Usually people say, I'm pretty positive I saw you. Now, if somebody absolutely knows something, they're going to be like, I saw you go over there and steal that damn tape. I know you did it. They're not going to say, I'm pretty positive, or I'm positive, or I'm sure. In regards to my rape, he says, I never said I penetrated while you were passed out. I said we both have done foreplay in the middle of the night, and if one was unresponsive or said no, it was done. I told you I didn't have sex with you while you're asleep. That's not possible. What the fuck, Q? That whole sentence is all fucked up. Now, I read you guys that sentence word for word. Notice this. I never said I penetrated while you were passed out. Do y'all notice that a word is missing? He said, I never said I penetrated while you were passed out. He's missing the word you. He took the subject out. Google this. Google fraud, deception in wordings. People who are being deceptive would often misplace or take out the subject or take themselves out of the subject and don't even know it. Which means he was lying about it. The complete thought would have been, I never said I penetrated you while you were passed out. But it's important to understand that at the very point in which the person who's accusing him of raping him, he takes her out of the subject. Right when we're talking about penetration, which is what I'm accusing him of. He said, I said we both have done foreplay in the middle of the night. And if one was unresponsive or said no, it was done. He said it was done. Now he's missing 2 letters. I looked at the keyboard. The letter N and the letter T are far apart. Okay? It would have taken thought and time to put N and T down if that's what he meant to put. But he said it was done. He just basically, if one was unresponsive and said no, it was done. Instead of saying it wasn't done. Y'all get what I'm saying? His guilty mind, it's like he's trying to keep up with his lies. So he's making up lies as he's going along, but he's telling on himself. He says, I told you I didn't have sex with you while you're asleep. While you're asleep. Your is a present tense verb in this sentence. Which means he's lying about it. He's making that up as he's going along. Because the correct terminology, if we're talking about the past, would have been, I told you I didn't have sex with you while you were asleep. But he said while you're asleep. As if while you're asleep, like right now. But this happened over a year ago. Fresh lie. Then they said that abusers, they rationalize. They try to make things logical and, intellectual. So then he goes and says, that's not possible, Q. What the fuck? This is how a person gets raped and don't even know it. We'll talk about this one in another segment. Basically, this is what happened. I was expecting a child from a guy that I was dating. I told Darren put his hands on me. And now, since Layla's born, I've learned that indeed what I originally suspected was a miscarriage was indeed a miscarriage. So, all that is still fresh to me because dealing with this situation has forced me to think about that. And I have to admit to myself that my child died as a result of Darren putting his hands on me. So, back when I originally suspected and, had a feeling that I had a miscarriage because of the pain, I was having a lot of cramps. I was bleeding a lot. Everybody, I haven't had a period since I gave birth to Jada. So at this point, I've had 2 babies, and I haven't had a period in over a year. Almost 2 years, actually. So, I started bleeding a lot, and this was like the next day after getting in a fight with Darren. Like, I got in a physical fight with Darren that night, and I started bleeding a lot. And so I went to the doctors. They said, it seems like I had a miscarriage. And then a couple of weeks later, I went back to the doctor because I started throwing up and getting a little stuff. And so they're like, wait a minute, you're pregnant. But it seemed you had a miscarriage. So then we're thinking the only logical explanation, because I'm like, I haven't slept with my ex since, because at this time me and Joe was broken up. So I haven't slept with him since the middle of November. So the only logical conclusion the doctors and I could make was maybe I didn't have a miscarriage. Maybe the stress of the fight between me and Darren was a result of the stress. Now, when I say ex, I'm talking about my ex Joseph, not Darren. Okay? So, at that point, before I found out that, or thought that I had a continued pregnancy, that, my pregnancy was interrupted, I thought I had a miscarriage. And so I started drinking a lot. And as everyone knows, I went back to stripping 3 weeks after giving birth to Roman. And I worked Monday through Sunday every day for like 11 months. Every day. So, that coupled with the miscarriage led me to drink a lot. So by the time I get home, I'm exhausted and I'm still a little drunk. Well, really drunk. Add those two combinations, by the time I'm asleep, I'm knocked the fuck out. Kept waking up with my panties down to my knees. And then it was wet in between. And I'm like, I ain't do shit. Then one day, this is how I found out. One day I questioned Darren again because I had been questioning him. I'm like, this don't make no fucking sense. I even tried to sleep on the bed with Jada, and he would throw fits if I laid in the bed with like Jada. I was like, we're not together, Darren. I don't want to sleep with you. But he would insist that I sleep with him. No, you're supposed to sleep on my bed. I said, I want to sleep with my daughter. Sleep in my bed. He'll make a big scene, and so to keep the kids asleep, I just go and sleep in the bed with him. Make sure the covers, make sure I started making sure I wrap myself up around the blanket. I wanted to feel that shit if anybody tried to mess with me. Because I kept waking up with my fucking panties down. So I questioned him like the 4th time. And that's when he chuckled. He started laughing and he was like, yeah. He was like, I only stick to tipping. I was like, what? I was like, dude, you're fucking me without my permission. I said, what makes you think that if I'm asleep, I want to fuck you. When I'm awake, I don't want to fuck you. Like, when I'm awake, I tell you I don't want to fuck you, Darren. Now, when I'm asleep and you nudge me and you see that I'm unresponsible, you think it's okay then to put your tip inside of me? I told my best friend that same day. She came to the hotel and I told her. And we both confronted him. She was like, that's rape, Darren. You, like, force yourself on her. She was like, if you're nudging her and she's not waking up, then what makes you think it's okay to put your dick in her? Well, I only put my tip in. He tried to tell us, this is what Darren told us. It's no different than a woman waking up in the morning giving her man head while he's asleep and him waking up to her giving him head. Brianna's my witness to that. I'm not going to argue no more on that. Okay? So, that's how I found out about Darren penetrating me while I was asleep. I thought I had a miscarriage. Then the doctor saying, no, you're pregnant. And I'm like, well, I haven't slept with nobody. And I continued to stop for months until Darren told me that. So the whole pregnancy, I'm thinking, is Joe's baby. Which is why the family never found out about it. Because you damn sure know I would have told. I give birth to the baby. She comes out really light. I had text messages where Darren says, that is Joe's baby. Then she started getting darker and darker and darker. And that's when I was like, man, she's starting to have everybody's picture. I texted him one day while I was at the strip club working. I was like, she got your face. She's starting to have your features. This is not a white man's baby. Thought back to how Darren admitted to penetrating me in front of me and my friend. Layla is a result of rape. That's why the family don't know about Layla, okay? Let's just be honest about that. All right. Now let's get on to this. I'm not sure if this is a continuation of something, but I don't know. So I guess this is more characteristics of a pedophile, an abuser. He said he was verbally abused as a child. Explosive temper triggered by minor frustration and arguments. Okay, so we already talked about all that. Okay. Now, effects on victims. The effects of a person who's been emotionally and physically manipulated and abused. These are the effects. Isolation, which I've experienced. I'm sitting in a hotel by myself, talking to my phone, making a video because I have nobody to contact physically. Low self-esteem, depression, emotional problems and instability, emotional instability, illness. I had several doctor visits. I was actually hospitalized. During the same time that Jada was going to the doctor's appointment, I was hospitalized for headaches. I was having migraines. I couldn't get up. I was sick. I couldn't eat. I was throwing up. I thought it was because of my pregnancy. But it says that it just so happened to be around my pregnancy, but I don't get migraines when I'm pregnant. I have a doctor's report around the same time that Jada was complaining about her headaches and she was throwing up and she wasn't eating and she had a catheter put in her. Within the same time frame of like a month or so, I was hospitalized twice for the same damn thing. And they put down on my paper diagnosis anxiety and panic attack. Increased alcohol and drug use. Don't do drugs. I tried weed 3 times. Wasn't my thing. Alcohol, I have a history of drinking a lot during my pregnancy with Layla before I found out I was pregnant with her. Withdrawal from real life into an internet altered reality. I think mine was the persona Kelly. I escaped through being Kelly at work. I worked as Kelly Monday through Sunday for over a year. That was my escape. And then I started being online, talking to people. Anxiety, doctor report. Frequent crying, crying for no damn reason. May try to do anything to bring the relationship back to good days. Okay? That can be evident in my desperate attempts at what I was doing. And him telling me, you keeping the kids is your fault. That's why you're struggling. And me wanting to keep our family together is what drove a woman who just gave birth to a baby 3 weeks prior to start stripping. Okay? I did a lot of things to try to keep me and Darren together. And I think it's pretty evident that I did some desperate stuff to try to keep us together. I tried to love me and Darren enough for the both of us. I tried to make up for his lack thereof. I tried to call myself carrying on the burdens and the responsibility that 2 people should have shared all on myself. I took care of the bills. I still took care of the kids when I was home. I mean, and then I had to take care of our relationship with him. It was a lot. Believe things the abuser says. I have text messages where Darren is being verbally abusive to me, and I'm basically, I can't even believe I said this shit, but I basically was saying, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I'm this, I'm that. Extreme dependence on abuser. I did have extreme dependence on him. I was homeless with 2 kids. He was my babysitter. Without a babysitter, I can't go to work. He knew that, and he held that over my head by getting me to do sexual acts with him. Underachievement. Now, how is it that I can be with a man for 10 months working Monday through Sunday, still have no car of my own, no house, no nothing. But time as I move in with my parents, the first time I moved in with my parents, I got enrolled back in school. I was able to get my financial aid fixed. I got a house. I got a car. And this was all within a few months of being in my mom's house. 2 months. Within 2 months. Daycare, everything. Within 2 months. How is it that I was able to do that with twice the amount of bills at my mama's house than I did at a hotel with him? Because now I got a car rental bill. I got car insurance. I got daycare. I still got diapers and wipes and formula. Gas. All of that. I'm spending more money at my mom's house than I was at the hotel. At the hotel, it was just the bus fare, the hotel, and food. And a free babysitter. It says victims have an inability to trust people. I definitely have issues trusting people. It says they're overly reactive. Mr. Moore, I remember that incident where I threw the car seats down in your front yard and you was like, stop being a drama queen. You always overreact. Well, that's a symptom of someone who's been abused. We overreact. An abuser will use a system of threats to play on the guilt and to control their victim. Now, the pictures of the bite marks that Darren sent me, he used that to try to put fear in me, that he would go to the cops and say, oh, she's abusive because, look, I got bite marks on me. Instead of telling the truth of how those bite marks got there. My word against his, because he's very convincing. Says no one else would want them. That's what he said. Look at his text message. This is a message he sent me. No one can tolerate you. That's an example. He always would tell me how nobody likes me. I sent the message to his stepmom. He said, nobody likes you. That's why my family don't like you. Your mom don't like you. Your friends don't like you. You ain't got no friends from high school left. Makes racist comments about the social background of their victim. He said that in the first message he sent me in regards to Jada's molestation, the fuck out of my face, I'm not from the South. I'm from the South. So with him throwing that comment in there, he's making fun of me. What was he trying to say by making that statement? I'm not from the South. Like he's better than? Criticize the person's spiritual belief. I believe that Jesus exists. I just don't deal with him. I'll deal with God on my own time. I'll deal with him on my own time. But right now, I just can't. The abuser plays mind games. He played mind games by sending me a text message saying that his stepmom was a military psychiatrist that said that I was bipolar. Then I texted stepmom and I sent her the message and she was like, I don't know why he sent you that because I'm not a psychiatrist in the military. Darren told me he amped up her position and her job to further convince me that what she was saying was accurate and that to convince me that there's something really wrong with me because a psychiatrist says something's wrong with you. But she's not a fucking psychiatrist in the military. Refusal to talk long periods of time. Silent treatment. Darren definitely gives people a lot of silent treatment. Like, you respond to him and it'll take him days, weeks before he talks to you, especially if you piss him off. Denied actions and minimize them. I have an email where he told my mom, I didn't attack your daughter that day at my mom's house. I lightly dragged her down the stairs. He said lightly dragged me down the stairs. He minimized it. And he put the blame on me. She attacked me. I lightly dragged her down a flight of stairs. Okay. So, I guess some more signs that Jada exhibits. Regression of infantile behavior, very clingy. The daycare that she's at now actually had a meeting about it because sometimes Jada will act like a baby. Like, she talks perfectly fine, but one of the symptoms that resulted from her abuse is that she literally acts like a baby. She starts talking like shit. It's so weird and it's hard to explain, but she resorts to infant behavior. Another sign was her changes in behavior. She had extreme mood swings. She withdrew from me. Usually me and Jada was tight. I give her hugs and kisses, and I started withdrawing because of the abuse I was experiencing with Darren, which made me withdraw from my kids. And so when Jada would come for a hug, I didn't want to be touched. And I know it sounds bad, but unless you're in that situation, no one can judge me. And so what started happening was she started withdrawing from me and from Darren and from everybody. She would complain about her arms, her legs, her mouth being in pain. It said those who fabricate tend to keep statements simple and brief. Few liars have sufficient imagination to make up detailed descriptions of fictitious things. Example from one of his messages. I know what she was doing, and I know what I didn't do. Simple. What didn't she do? What was she doing, Darren? What didn't you do? It's like he keeps not talking about it. He just says, I know what she was doing. I know what I didn't do. God knows what I didn't do. but he's not saying it. Contradictions in statement. He said, this is Darren's statement. Now look, I want y'all to hear the contradictions in this. I've never talked or cursed a woman except you. ... Me and Quanda cuss a little, but not at each other. Like calling each other cuss words or derogatory shit only out of anger. Okay, but you said you never talked to another woman this way, but then you say you talk to Quanda this way, but not to each other, but only when y'all are angry with each other, y'all talk like this. Motherfucker can't even keep up with his shit. Okay, the oaths. Verb tense. Truthful people describe past events in the past. Deceptive people refer to the past events as if they're occurring in the present. It suggests that they're rehearsing the events in their mind. It says they answer questions with a question as well to avoid answering the question. So I said, Darren, you did rape me. And he was like, I never said I penetrated while you were asleep. Passed out. I said we both had done floor play in the middle of the night, and if one was unresponsive or said no, it was done. I told you I didn't have sex with you while you're asleep. That's not possible. What the fuck, Q? Then he said, I did touch her down there when I wiped her and washed her, you idiots. And I'm sure she's being coached to tell on me. I want y'all to listen to this last part. I'm not even going to explain it. He says, I'm sure she's being coached to tell on me. Not she's been coached, but she's being coached to tell on me. Tell is a very important word. He didn't say lie. He said tell. Then he says, okay, let me know how it goes. Why would I be concerned about something I didn't do? They have a lack of self-reliance. Lack of self-reliance meaning they take themselves out of the subject in their sentence. Here's one sentence he sent me. I said, Darren, I see what you've done. I said, you've been manipulating me all this time. He said, manipulated nobody. Manipulated, the M was capitalized. So that's the beginning of the sentence. He said, manipulated nobody. Not I didn't manipulate nobody. He said, manipulated nobody. That is the talk of an abuser, y'all. He forgot the I. He took himself out of it. It says they allude to actions without saying they perform them. So I said, by her stripes she is healed, and there's consequences for your action. God will get you back. He says, God know what I didn't do. No, he said, God know my heart. That's all that matters. ... Smiley face with a wink. Then at 6:44, Mr. Ferguson said he talked to Darren's parents. And then Darren alluded to the fear of having me arrested by showing me the pictures, sending the pictures with no words, but sending the picture of the bite marks. And then he said, God know what I didn't do. I would answer to him. He knows I never touched my girls. God know what I didn't do. What didn't you do, Darren? It's like he doesn't talk about it. He still hasn't said, I didn't molest my daughter. He said, yo, get her evaluated and checked and canceled. I really want to see what they find. And if someone is hurting her or your parents are coaching her. First he said she's being coached. Now he's saying coaching her. Switching them damn tense. Then stepmom said everything's good. Oh. His stepmom told me that Darren, when they talked to Darren, asked him how the kids doing, if he's taking care of the kids, he says everything's good. He's taking care of the kids. He's doing his part as a parent. But I have a message where I said, Darren, you haven't helped me none. And he says, nope, ... Okay. Here's a fact. 90% of abuse victims know their abuser. 90% of abuse victims know their abuser. And they're males. And they're usually close family. There fits all these profiles. Here's the people that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about my daughter. I'm concerned about her older sister, who I personally seen exhibit the same thing that my child has demonstrated. And I'm concerned about Sarah. Here's why I'm concerned about Sarah. Because you have a young teenage girl. And I stayed in the Moore's house for about 2 months. And I've observed enough of their parenting to understand that how is it that a little girl who is in a two-parent household, right, with her mom and dad, how is it that she is confused about her sexuality? And she likes men and she likes girls. Last I heard, she had a girlfriend. That's what Darren said. But I'm like, this is very uncharacteristic of a family unit where there's two parents who work and who have been married the child's entire upbringing in a good neighborhood, to be confused sexually. And then it just so happens that she's in a household with a brother. One, Darren's really not that protective over Sarah. Darren picks and teases his sister. Now, it's one thing if Darren was close in age with Sarah and he was picking on her like me and my brother do, because we're 18 months apart. But I have older brothers, okay? Siblings tease one another, but Darren flat out will humiliate Sarah in front of me. Talk about her weight. Call her cake girl or sweet girl. I guess she has like some kind of sugar addiction. He humiliated that girl. There was a time where she was, it was that time of the month. Man, she stained it. I mean, talking about the girl business. I'm like, I didn't need to know about that. Why are you sharing? You're putting your sister on blast like that. He takes teasing his little sister to a whole nother level. I mean, for them to be so far apart in age, the dynamics of their relationship, typically, of an older brother, a grown brother, and his little sister would be protective. More like giving her advice. Stuff like that. Making sure little boys, aren't messing with her. But he picks on her. Teases her. Brings her self-esteem down with the things that he says. Him and Nelson. Tag team. But he's the big brother. Nelson is more on Sarah's level because they're close in age. Darren's a grown-ass man. That relationship is odd. Now, I'm not saying he did anything, but if I was the family, I do research more on abusers. And I would just think back and would just watch things between those two. And it's not uncommon for a victim to be friends with their abuser. It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon for them to deny it either, because of shame, threats, whatever. Blackmail. Darren has a history of blackmail with me. I find it interesting that two women are accusing Darren of abuse, sexual abuse. I have proof and I have witness, and a baby, and a relationship that I was in. And Darren even mentioned, supporting that, yes, she was pregnant by Joe. But I wonder what happened to that baby, because I damn sure was bleeding around that time. I find it interesting that the type of sexual abuse that Jada demonstrated on that doll, and the type of symptoms she has, and the type of symptoms and abuse that I have been telling the family about for years, they both go together. The type of abuser that abused me, which was Darren, fits the profile of a pedophile. A pedophile abuses children the way Jada described or demonstrated, and has results like she did. And those same pedophiles abuse adult victims the way in which I'm describing Darren abused me. Does that make any sense? It's not like I'm accusing him of some completely random ass shit that's not supported with documentation, facts, or text. Her abuse and claim and my abuse and claims, the same type of abuser does both to an adult and a child. And we both have the symptoms. I need the family to wake up. Seriously. Okay. Question. Here's food for thought. Why is it that I had to reach out to his uncle in California to tell his mom what happened with Jada and what Jada said? Darren sees this woman every single day. He lives in her house. Why was she not the first person he talked to? Why is it that the people that are paying his cell phone bills don't even know? I had to reach out to Darren's uncle on Facebook. His uncle on his dad's side. I had to reach out to him on Facebook and say, can you tell them to call me? Darren's he's doing a hell of a job of keeping everybody from coming together to talk. Because when you talk, information gets exchanged. The truth becomes revealed. Why is he trying so hard to keep us apart, y'all? Think about it. There's so much lies Darren has told. He said that I conned Mr. Ferguson into believing that I wanted to go back to school to get $5,000. That's bullshit. Said he never dragged me down the stairs. Said that I attacked him. Bullshit. Said he never dropped me off in the middle of the night. Bullshit. I have a police report. Never put his hands on me. Police reports. I have all these reports. And here's another thing I want y'all to think about. Darren never called the police. When I got arrested for assault on Darren, it wasn't because Darren filed charges against me, guys. This is what happened. Because I have a history of running my mouth and telling the police the truth and what happens between him and I, they separated us, which is something that's never been done before. Usually they have us in a room together and we're talking. But this time they took Darren out the room and talked to him, and they had me in the room. So Darren couldn't hear what I was telling them. I couldn't hear what he was telling them. I'm in a situation where I'm in a hotel. I got a room to pay for. I have limited funding. I don't want this man to go to jail for what he did to me. He put his hands on me. He hacked into my Facebook, put the most humiliating quote that was a lie on my Facebook. Changed my password. I couldn't even get to my Facebook. I was able to screenshot the picture that he posted. And it even says under the picture, I was like, I didn't do this. I didn't post this picture. We got into an argument because I said, I'm leaving you. I said, how dare you hack into my Facebook and post this shit? I'm leaving you. Got into a huge fight. The police got called by someone in the hotel. So they had us separated. Save face. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just lie. I'm going to just say that he didn't do shit to me. So I put down no scars. He didn't do nothing to me. So these people can get out my face. I can go make this money because at the end of the day, I got to take care of them. Meanwhile, he's out there telling them I abused him. Man, she attacked me. She put her hands on me. Look, she scratched me. He had a little scratch on him. Because of the fact that he attacked me. Don't you know, because of Durham's policy on abuse or assaulting people, because he showed them a scratch, and I made claims that he didn't touch me, but he made claims I touched him, and he was the one that had a scratch on him and I didn't, they had to arrest me. Now, I told the officer, I said, look at my fucking face. I was in jail for 15 minutes, literally. Sat down on the bench. The officer was like, more than likely the magistrate is just going to say, take you back home. Because honestly, because of the situation, we know what happened. But because he claims that you assaulted him and he has a physical mark on him, we had to arrest you. Go to the magistrate. I showed him my phone. I said, this is what caused it. I said, I tried to leave. I said, wouldn't you leave if somebody posted shit like this about you on your Facebook? And then when I tried to leave, he tried to prevent me from leaving. And put his hands on me. That was in September of 2014. They said, we don't have cause. He was like, I understand. That's what the magistrate said. He said, I understand. We don't have cause to even keep you here. But try to keep the noise down or you leave him. Darren lied to the family and my family and said he dropped the charges. This is why I got out of jail. Now, everybody knows that's bullshit. And this is how you guys know that's bullshit. Because I pressed charges on Darren that he busted my lip and left the hotel, which resulted in him going to jail. Okay? When I tried to drop those charges, because I didn't want to deal with it, I had to work and I didn't feel like dealing with the back and forth and the court shit and taking time off of work to deal with it, they said I could not drop those charges. Because it's no longer me and him, it's Darren against the state. Okay? If Darren had filed assault charges against me, believe me, I would not. He would not have been able to. He doesn't have the authority in Durham County to have dropped those assault charges. I got out because the magistrate said there's no reason to keep her. I don't have a fucking mug shot. There was never any charges pressed. I came home that day because the magistrate said, we don't have reason to keep you. We see the evidence. We see what happened. Go. But he wants to bring up she was arrested for assaulting me and I dropped the charges because I wanted to. I want y'all to look. Go to Durham County. Take Darren to Durham County. I want somebody to take him to Durham County. Find that report. Find that report. There was never charges. Ever. Me going to school? Let me tell y'all about me going to school. I didn't calm Mr. Ferguson, okay? Remember when I said Darren dropped me off in Apex? And as a result, I ended up missing my exam and getting a fail and lose my financial aid, okay? That year, when I found out that Roman was coming, before I found out that I was pregnant by Roman, after we came back from Myrtle Beach and I moved back in with my parents and left my first apartment, and Darren was like, oh, you failed the family because you left and you went back to your mama's house and all that bullshit that I told Mr. Ferguson about. Within a couple weeks of being in my mom's house, I filled out an application for a new apartment. You know, because I wanted to do it before the first apartment went on my record. I got approved. Jada was in daycare. I had a good job. I had my shit lined up. I was supposed to move in February of 2014. Something like 2014, 2015. I was supposed to move. Yeah, 2015. Move into my apartment. I had my shit lined up. December comes around and I go to the hospital thinking I had the fucking flu. And I find out that I have a little boy. So now I can't work the job that I work anymore, which was a cleaning service. And then that altercation at my mom's house, which resulted from Darren, I got kicked out of my mom's house. So now I'm homeless. And now I'm living with his parents in Holly Springs. So now I can no longer commute to my job even if I wanted to. Because he's in Holly Springs. It's way too far. There's no transportation. So now I'm at his parents' house. You know what I'm saying? I actually wrote a letter back in October because anyone knows if you look up the system for enrollment in classes, October and November is the deadline. That's when open enrollment starts and that's when it ends, okay? So I had already applied for financial aid prior to this incident, okay? I actually had to write a letter to get my financial aid started back up. It's like a forgiveness type thing. I wrote a letter. I supported the medical documentation and the police report from the officer who picked me up from the highway, from Apex, right? And I wrote them a letter about how I was in an abusive relationship during the time my ex tried to get me to abort my child. And this is why I missed my exam. And this is why I ended up failing and not meeting the criteria for financial aid. Could you guys please forgive me and give me another chance to get financial aid? There was a 5-page letter I had to send. They ended up approving me. So all this shit happens. I'm finding out I'm pregnant. I can't do my job. I'm kicked out of my mom's house. And now I got school in a week. And I just fought hard to get back into school. So I asked Mr. Ferguson, can you please take me to school so that I can get my school supplies? He said yes. Now, the more seen me do my homework. I was dealing with Jada and trying to do my homework at the same time. Okay? This is what happened. The computer that I purchased from school blew out. Okay? I did not know if you put a hot-ass computer on carpeted surface, the hard drive blew out. Mr. Moore can vouch for that because I was on the phone with the IT people. He took me to a computer shop to get it diagnosed, and we found out it was the hard drive. Okay, I did online classes. I needed my computer. I couldn't go to the library because Darren worked, the Moores worked. Who's going to watch my child while I'm doing school at the library? Work at the library. So I used their computer. And me and Darren actually ended up getting a rental computer. Darren took the computer from the room one night, went to his side of the across the hallway upstairs on the 3rd floor, left the computer open on the floor and fell asleep. Jada wakes up in the morning, goes over there and fucks up the computer. So then I move into my place, like a couple weeks later. I move into my place, but I have no car. I have no money to put my daughter in daycare so I can be able to do my schoolwork, and I have no computer. My classes are online, and I'm about to give birth to Roman. So I literally had to give up school because I had no computer. I had no access to internet. I didn't have a computer, and I had Jada with me. So that's how I got out of school. So no, Mr. Ferguson, I didn't trick you to get $5,000. I didn't fucking know how much money I was getting until after I purchased my school supplies, which you took me to. But Darren told the family she did that so she can get money and drop school. Really? A person's gonna write a 5-page letter and do all of this shit to get money when I had a job at the time that I applied for financial aid? I had a job. I wasn't gonna touch that money. That was gonna go to my savings. But because of my change in situation, I had to. Police report, he dropped me off on the side of the highway. He has a history of that. Because I wouldn't abort my child at his parents' house, he drugged me down a flight of stairs and from the 3rd floor to the 2nd floor. And he whipped me on the side with a feather duster. And I have a mark on the side of my stomach from that shit. And I have medical records that says threatened abortion. He took me to the hospital and he left me. He didn't even step foot in there. The doctors even said, you know why he dropped you off? Because he was afraid we were going to arrest him. That's the real reason. I find it funny that after Darren gets out of jail, all of a sudden his relationship with his mom and step pops is good because now they believe him. Because now they believe him. It's funny how he's 27 years old, never had a good relationship with his family until after they started listening to him. And now everybody's like Darren's little puppet. Not even puppet, more than everyone just doesn't know what to believe of him. He's just so good at convincing people. Somebody needs to wake up. And here's another telltale sign that Darren told me about his molestation. Because why is it that when Mr. Ferguson contacted Darren's mother, right? Why isn't that his first message, if he didn't say this to me, wasn't, why did you lie to my cousin and say my cousin did this to me? That wasn't true. He didn't say that. The first message he sent me, guys, I got it on my phone, was, what are you trying to do? Me and my family are tight. What are you trying to do, ruin my family? Are you mad because you failed your family like your mom failed yours? Hers? That was his message in response to Mr. Ferguson contacting his mom about those claims. He never denied it. You know why he never denied it? Because he know he told me that shit. I have those messages. Not once did he say, you lied about this. He doesn't talk about it because he knows I'm fucking telling the truth. But I'm sure he's telling the family I never said that to her. Y'all believe what y'all want. I'm done with it.